Is money the new meta? Let's talk about the individual modes in this meta report, but we've just had the Byleth and Winter Edelgard and Dual Leon and Emblem Marth. I want to know in the comments, do you feel like this game has become pay to win? Let's talk about Light and Dark Season first and some of the big shifts we've had in the last 6 months. We've had Catria Balls go to Cav lines, we've had enemy phase die, and we're all doing player phase now, and then we have preference weapon creep over the former skill creep. And that's a lot of change and a lot of barracks turnover that we've had to go through. Let's look at a couple of replays though. First up, we have Valentine's Leon himself, and has there been more controversy around a unit than this one? And the things that this unit do are very frustrating for a lot of players. The thing that I will say and what I've found is in Aether Raids, I think he is more of a neat toy. A very, very powerful unit, very influential, but I don't mind him as much. He does some really interesting things, and in particular on defense, I think he can be a fun unit to play with. What happens though is things like Null Counter Disrupt become almost imperative, and that means it limits the number of saviors and omni tanks you can use because they have to be able to run that skill. It means the Byleths get better and everyone else kind of falls down in the savior ranks. The other big thing we're seeing here is we have units like Winter Edelgard that are so prevalent that you have to have a counter for them, and that counter, there is none better than Brave Edelgard. This is a unit that you need to get on your team. It is so important that a lot of folks, including me, are saying goodbye to far saviors whatsoever on defense teams and going near save. It changes a lot of defenses and how you play, so be on the lookout for that. I still definitely believe though that tanking is going down. Like the number of powerful nukes that we've had are they are off the wall right now. And that means even though I just said Byleth is very good, as a whole, I think his value has gone down as well as all of the other Omni tanks. It is just that within the tanking meta, he is one of the highest ones there. You do have some help though, and this is a conversation I was having with Tony over on Reddit, and listen, it is still possible to tank right now. It is just a lot harder. It's not so much that you're end turning. You need units that help you like Milla. Milla is a huge boon to a lot of what's happening there because to extend range, we're either seeing dancers or Dogger with Pathfinder or some other type deal that we need to be able to counter. Milla is one of those units that help. The last thing I want to mention is Valentine Myrrh. I do think she gains value just because I think what she does is very powerful against player phase teams. Now, she doesn't stop turn 1 clears, but there are a lot of folks that like to do the hit and run style where you go in and take out a unit and then finish them off through the rest. But being able to stop warping is absolutely huge, and I don't love her because she doesn't have quite the power of the Byleths, but because of Warp Bubble, she does have value. So we've talked about these big changes, and what really sets in is homogeny, because the turnover in Heroes gets to be so fast. In Nukes, you're always going to see Ninja Sanaki, Valentine's Leon, and of course Kvaser and Gulveg. In Tanks, you're always going to see the Byleths or Winter Altina. For Galeforce, you're always going to see Winter Edelgard. These are the tip-top units, and everyone else is a far second to them. Let's look at a video, and this is Duo Sanaki. What I will say is, when you have a set number of heroes that are always going to show up, it does make it easier to be able to counter them. People start figuring them out. For instance, with Sanaki, you always have to negate debuffs, and you can survive that way. You're seeing Kill do it here, but understand an even better way is to use Omni tanks and just put them further than within 2 spaces of a hero. Suddenly she loses a lot of power. The other big thing we're seeing though is Freyr is out there enabling a lot of different kinds of strategies on defense, such as Dancer Traps. He is an invaluable piece right now and something you want on your team. The other thing we're seeing is that with the rise of player phase, skills like Wings of Mercy 4 have become even more valuable, and they're easier to give out now that we have so many more fodder chains to be able to take advantage of. I would highly recommend trying to get this on one of your player phase teams. It really makes them pop, as you can see right here on this Anna. But we have to talk about Marth, and I really believe this is one of the most influential units in the game right now. And the big reason is the rise of player phase. Giving cooldown reduction and all of those extra stats are a big deal. It makes things like heavy blade checks easier, and it also gives one extra cooldown if you're really into area of effect clears. Last, and keep in mind I mentioned this as a +10 Reagan user, I was so disappointed by that refine, and I understand that she is still a very usable unit, but the thing is, when you get a mythic, one of the things you are banking on is a good remix and a good refine. Most of the time, IS shows up for you, but that's what extends their value. That means that Reagan will fall off quicker than another unit, so value goes down there. Chaos Season is next, and I really want to show this as kind of the antithesis of what Aether Raids is right now. You can bring absolutely any unit you want, and that's not necessarily a good thing. Things are a bit off balance now. We have regular Aether Raids where you always know exactly what units you're going to hit, and you have Chaos Season where you never know any of the units you're going to get. What that gets down to is we want a little bit of predictability in our game, but not to the level of Aether Raids right now. And hopefully that will change and things will start to level out as we go on in the months, but the level of power creep has been so insane and the turnover has kept going that I'm not sure where that's going. So I'm going to show this Dancer Trap from Sea Dolphin again because I love this team. We've talked about it a lot, but unpredictability is the biggest thing you want on defense for Chaos Season, period. There are too many things that you have to worry about. You will never be able to get everything. Being unpredictable, though, allows you more leeway and gets you more wins flat out. But I also want you to notice how Byleth just goes down. Understand that really means that on offense, he's the unit you want to bring, and so you have to counter him. It is not a good defense unless you can counter the Byleth. The last thing, I mean, you just saw that AoE take out Byleth. They're really good. One of the things that I really believe that Chaos Season got right was the bonus system, and I wish they would move that over into regular Aether Raids. You're seeing right here someone come in with a decked out Berkut to take out this team. That is so much fun, and I love that piece. The bonus system in Aether Raids definitely feels pay to win. It makes it feel more like Arena, where you have to have one of the newer units in order to compete. Most of your older mythics you can still use, like Air, but if it's not their bonus season, you have to have something to fill in that blank. The other thing I really want to bring up here, again, if you want to use your favorites, Marth is the unit. I mean, slaying was such a big influence on the game before, and this is a new type of slaying and extra stats. Summoners, I cannot say enough about how good this unit is. Let's look at the archetypes, and I mean, Cavalines should be going down. They honestly should be, because they've been up for too long, and there are starting to be definite counters for them, like any sort of galeforce clear. The fact is, though, they keep getting new toys, and Valentine's Leon is one of them. It is really hard to go against them right now. The other thing it really brings down is tanking, because we keep getting stronger and stronger nukes. I have Corrin up here, and her value is definitely going down, but we talked about that, where you can still tank with the absolute tip-top. It is much harder for anything lower and a more cerebral clear than it used to be. The last thing I want to talk about is, and we didn't go over this before, but hit and run with Leon is very powerful, and the end turn meta in general has brought hit and run clears up much higher. The ability to shut off another unit is ridiculous, and something that is a lot of fun. Just watch out for Freyr, because he can kind of ruin your day on that. There's two things left to talk about here, and one is Galeforce, and I think you guys are tired of me saying that it's getting better, because it's kind of tiring. What I want to go over, though, is the Ball O units, and I'm gonna start calling them hero balls because I don't know what else to call them right now. It is the replacement for Catria balls that we're seeing, and a lot of them aren't working very well. There are ways that you can do them, like the Dancer Trap that I just showed, that are very powerful, but those are very difficult to put together, and you need to know a lot about AI. In general, I have their value going down, but understand that if you put a lot of resources and time and energy into them, they can can be very, very good. Summoner Duels is in even more flux than it usually is, which is crazy because that mode moves fast. Leon has just absolutely changed things, but it's in conjunction with units like Sather. Being able to absolutely shut down an enemy team has really changed the game, and it's made things more volatile than it normally is. Let's look at some clears. I really debated not showing this at all because I think this is the end turn meta at its worst, and it will never be this bad because they won't have Small Chamber as a map on any competitive mode. But understand that it still does exist, and the fact that the entire team is about to be shut down is nuts. This is a clear from Lindis Forever, who really loves to experiment with the newest units, and I saw this and was just horrified, as I'm sure most of you saw something like this. But the fact that Leon is so powerful that he just negates tanks and shuts down units is not good for the game mode, just to be honest. I understand that there is counterplay, and I think I heard it best where Leon is not a bad unit as long as everyone has him. That means you really get into more of a chess match, and that's kind of neat. But that's the thing, I really do believe this is a must-have unit in Summoner Duels right now. I have a lot of people telling me otherwise, and I know you can play without him, but the level of difficulty does go up significantly. This is a very, very powerful unit, and if it is in your ability, you should have this unit for Summoner Duels. All right, that's enough of that nonsense. I want to talk about FX Pasta, and this is a clear from Bayou. This is also showing how you would go against the end turn meta in the upcoming map. The thing that happened with Cavs is we started getting ways to make sure that they didn't need to succeed on turn 1. I don't know if you remember the early Cav lines, but if you didn't take out the opponent on turn 1, then you were done. Watch it how this player moves around and holds back and waits for their moment. The ability to do that hinges a lot on Lucina, but also on Chrom. There are a lot of actions to increase your action economy in Cav teams right now. Makes them very powerful and honestly a lot of fun. You add in all of the incredibly powerful toys and nukes that Cavs have gotten right now, and Summoners, this is very hard to counter on any map. I think Cavs are finally here to stay instead of fluctuating in and out of the meta like they have so much, but this mode moves fast. The last two things, Ketria going down, roll compression is so important, and what really happened with Ketria was she stopped being a serviceable unit herself. And that makes it very hard to put her on a team because you need every single unit to perform multiple roles in Summoner Duels. The other thing is Marth, and Marth is like going out and getting another Summoner support. Like that's the value of that unit. Summoner Duels, more than any other mode, comes down to single point stats in so many areas. And that's really the pay to win component of this mode. If you get Feh Pass, you get 3 units with Summoner support, then you can tack Marth on. That means you don't need to plus 10 your unit. You have other ways to get them there, and you can summon for the next latest and greatest thing instead. The other thing that makes Summoner Duels really tough is the amount of fodder that you need, very specific fodder. That means Summoner Duels isn't pay to win if you focus on Summoner Duels alone and ignore almost everything else. There are exceptions to this, but it gets harder and harder with units like Leon coming out that I truly believe are must summons. So is this game pay to win? No, not yet, but it does require focus on individual modes that you want to play. The other thing that's really going away is merging units. That's becoming less and less out of style, and that's something that I really love. I wanted to go over just briefly some merge projects that I think still work, because saving up for units and slowly building them is such a fun part of this game for me. And the first one is Marth, and the great thing is, like, out of the box, his kit is excellent and he can immediately help any other unit that you're trying to boost up. With a score of 764, he can also easily be used in Arena and just absolutely demolishes things there. We've talked about legendaries and how you really shouldn't invest in them anymore. You should get a one-off and then invest in a duo, and I really think Sather is that duo. She has a ton of offensive capabilities as well as being able to absolutely shut units down. I think that will be good for a very long time. Look at Crom. Crom is still a great score bot and unit all these years later because of the roll compression that he provides. Sather is good in every single mode right now. Then we have Myrrh. Do not invest in enemy phase units right now, please. Unless they're your absolute favorites, you can make them happen. But understand, with the volatility that we have right now with the whole nuke versus omni tank or tank battle, you just don't even want to get into that. Those units right now, grab a one-off, get out. So if you want to get off of the crazy power creep train, go watch the Galeforce video. I talk about teams that will last much longer than a lot of the units are here. Members, thank you so much for all you do and for all the conversation and support and input. I love it. Take care and schedule an appointment with your FEHologist real soon.